Hi, I'm Craig. That's my brother Brad. Welcome to Weekdays with Craig and Brad.
Life is hard, but you can't give up. Let's have a conversation. Weekdays, we're gonna make it today. Weekdays with Craig and Brad.
Episode 117.
Did you put the bumper on?
What bumper?
Our
Did I miss
weekdays
something?
intro.
What did I mess something up? What happened? I wasn't even paying attention.
I didn't even hear the weekdays intro.
Yeah, we just did it.
I was just sitting here. I've got such a bad connection just now. Oh my gosh, this is going to be an interesting show.
All right, look, the most important thing is we made it. At least I made it. Brad's internet is struggling very slow, very slow tonight.
Oh gosh.
They're taking over. So can you hear me, Brad? You got me?
I can hear you just fine. It's just we usually go, welcome to Weekdays with Craig and Brad. It goes to the show intro. And I was sitting here watching it, and the show intro didn't come up on my end. So I'm thinking that everybody who's watching the show just now is just staring at you and me waiting on the back end while the intro plays. Anyway, we made it. It's Sunday, September 12th. Thanks for popping in. And hey, Craig, guess what?
Oh, wait.
The number one movie on this day.
In
the year, keeping with the theme of the show, in the year 2001, the number one movie on this
I was
day.
hoping you go 2001. I was hoping you go 2001. Scary movie.
No, this is a hard one. I have not even actually seen this movie. I usually pick something that I've seen. The number one movie on this day in 2001 was Hardball with Keanu Reeves. Have you seen this movie?
What? No.
It's
And I got to be
hard-
honest, I don't anticipate you playing the trailer because it'll break your computer.
Yeah, let's be careful tonight with my internet connection. No, this is, and the weird thing about it too is I was looking at movies the year before was also a Keanu Reeves movie, The Watcher, another movie, Keanu Reeves movie I have not seen.
Wait. Go back a year before, and I bet it's The Matrix.
1999.
Yeah.
Stigmata.
Okay.
But yeah. So number one movie. Yeah, Hardball was like a baseball movie, I think.
Well, let me tell you this. The one thing I've learned from you telling me about those three movies is that you don't have to be a good movie to be a number one movie, which is important. So, yeah.
Just sort of popped in, boop, and then it went away, and people were like, oh, okay, what was that movie?
Stigmata.
I do remember hearing about that one, but
Not me.
I don't know. Yeah, Keanu Reeves still hot. Going at in the last 20 years, he's coming out with the new Matrix, isn't he?
Probably the most hot he's ever been, if I'm being very frank. I mean, outside of the Matrix when it first came out, I mean, he's been in John Wick. Like, talk about a guy who started off playing a dude, like in Bill and Ted. You know, that's how I got his big break. Dude, excellent, right?
Whoa.
Bill S. Preston, right? Yeah, whoa. And
no, he was Ted Theodore Logan.
Oh, that's who he was. Okay, that's right. Bill S. Preston, Ted Theodore Logan. Yeah, Wild Stallions. You know, the guy, like, talk about longevity. And the thing is, he's been an action hero. He's been a baseball guy, a football player. I mean, he's been everything. Yeah. So it's crazy.
Props to him. He's one of the few celebrities I think that still has a lot of mystique around who he is. You know, like these days, you got lots of celebrities that are on Twitter and social media, and it kind of pulls away from the mystique that we used to have with celebrities and musicians because you didn't get to know them that well. You saw their music videos and you're like, I wonder what kind of person they are. But like, there's still sort of that sort of thing going on with Keanu Reeves, I think. Like, he seems like, dude, I don't know. He's not on Twitter. It's about right every day. So
yeah. Seems like a pretty good guy. Don't need to hear any nonsense from him. You know, it's almost like not saying everything that comes out of your mouth could actually be a great thing. Just throwing it out there. Glad you guys are here. Welcome on out, episode 117. We got a big show tonight. Really big show. Obviously, we're going to be touching on 9/11 stuff because, well, it's 9/12 when we're recording this and live, and you know, we haven't really had an opportunity to talk about our personal experience with 9/11, and we thought it'd be a good opportunity. I want to talk about 9/12 today in particular. But we'll get to that in just a little bit. So lots going on, lots to talk about. But in addition, see, look, Brad's gone. I was gonna say, oh no, Brad just left. There he goes. But in addition to that, we usually get to the YouTube comment of the day, but Brad is now gone. Oh, okay. Well, it's just us guys. Good to see you. Thank you very much for joining me. Josh has resubbed tier 1 for 14 months. Josh, welcome on back. I had the football game on back here because I figured I'd want to watch it, and you guys want to watch it because it's Sunday Night Football, and now we have babies on. But so now we're going to get into a little bit of 9/11 stuff. Are we better off than where we were 20 years ago? The good, the bad, and everything else in between. Brad and I each have our own opinions, but it's definitely worth discussing, and we'd love to hear your thoughts as well tonight. So make sure you guys are active in the chat, both on Twitch and on YouTube. If you're watching over on youtube.com/5timesaugust, your first time tuning in, welcome on in. It's good to see you guys. This is a show we do once a week. We didn't do it last week. We've been kind of sporadic. I'm not going to lie. It's okay, but we'll be back. We're doing it again. Oh, Brad's trying to get back on. He's trying to find it back in. But yeah, man, it's crazy. Aiden says the Eagles cream the Falcons. Man, I'll tell you what, that game was on locally, and they did, in fact, cream the Falcons. It was a pretty big football day. It was exciting to see football back, and especially in a world where we're in the middle of a global pandemic, 3 times worse than we were last year. People are like, meh, let's just go out and live our life, and it's not mentioned, and nothing's being thrown down your throat, except for COVID. But it's really great to see full stadiums. It's very, very cool to see. So hopefully the trend continues. Nobody stops down. I think the people who have it worse this year are definitely the players who have to get all the COVID testing and all the vaccinations and all this stuff. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Oh, joining us now, my brother, Brad. Glad you're back.
Can you see me now?
I can see you, Brad.
I can't see myself on the screen. I've got so many bad tech issues tonight. It's unbelievable.
Oh, you're okay. You're okay. Don't worry about it.
As long as I'm on the screen, I guess.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. So look,
what I missed.
Well, I was just talking about what we have going on tonight, and I was talking about football, and I was talking about how we have full stadiums, which is really great. And I was about to get into a section that I think everybody loves, and that is
the YouTube comment of the day.
Here's the best thing about this is that I can talk it right here, but Brad is in Robotville over here, and and he can't share his screen at all. I can hear you. I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Oh, let me see here. I have to reshare my screen.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Am I completely blocked?
You look great. You look great.
How long have we been doing this show? 10 months? And
we've been doing it over a year.
No, we haven't. We started in November last year.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So are we doing what were we doing a comment of the day?
Oh Lord. Yeah, hold on. I feel like I wonder if there's a way to boot, because you're just a frozen version of yourself right now. Let me add your screen. Hold on. I'm going to add you to this. Add your YouTube comment. You just tell me what it is.
My YouTube comment of the day. You want me to just read it?
Yeah, read it because I already did the intro and you clearly didn't hear it. So go.
I didn't even see it. All right. So I saw this just now. I was looking at our comments. This was a recent one. It said, this is from Opie. It says, last year I was going through a suicidal phase in my life, COVID and all. But now I want to live life to the fullest. And I want to thank Brad for inspiring me to be myself. Keep doing what you do. And I will be here every Sunday on your wonderful podcast, listening to you. God bless. Also, I'm writing my own protest songs. Maybe I can be on your podcast and perform. So I just thought that was
wow,
just really an incredible comment. I've been having a hard time keeping up with the YouTube comments lately, but I pulled that up for the show as we do this segment every time. And that really means a lot. I appreciate the comment, and I'm glad you're on a good track. I think that right now is a really great time to, really start living life to the fullest. I mean, it is what it is. Make the best of it.
I've had a lot of people say, Frozen Brad, that can you let me just change your name really quick. Let me just change your name.
Frozen Brad.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe I need to log off and log back on.
It's okay. It didn't even change. Oh, there it is, Frozen Brad.
Okay. If I
so-
happen to leave, just let me just clarify. If I happen to just go away again, I'm going to restart my computer and come back. Okay.
Yeah, I can handle it. It's cool.
Okay. You got it, Craig?
Yeah, I'm good. That's good.
You done this before?
No, I don't even know what you're talking about. But I'll say this: like I said, the last year and a half really has been very, very hard. And Opie, I think that says a lot that you were able to come out and say those things. And I'm glad that Brad is able to be your inspiration to go out and live life to its absolute most, because there's a lot of people who weren't able to make it through the last year. And I think that's something that we've talked about quite a bit, about how, people talk about COVID deaths. They talk about the impacts of the cases and the number of people who have died, but they have not. I don't feel like enough has been spoken about the mental aspect of this. I say this all the time. I say, the death rate. People go, well, sick. It's the death rate is point whatever percent. It doesn't matter what the death rate is, right? And it's affected, X number of people. Well, 100% of people, 100% of people have been affected by COVID mentally. And that has been incredibly hard for a lot of folks. You guys have heard me say that many, many times on this podcast, and I stand by that. It's something that is not easy to really fight through for a lot of folks. And I get it. We've all had bouts with mental struggles over the past year. When you're told everything you can't do or you must do, that's not fair. So kudos to everybody. And I hope to God that none of our viewers have not been able to make it. So
yeah, stay strong for sure.
Right. For sure.
Thanks for commenting. I'm going to award Opie 2021 points.
Love it. All right. Opie, congratulations. That's a high watermark for points. I'm just going to throw that out there. It's been a lot of, we don't throw out points that often. And I think that's really outstanding. So yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I'll tell you what, before we get into this, Brad, how about I'll give everybody a rundown of what we're talking about again one more time. Please reset your computer. Come on back, and then we'll keep on going. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'll be right back, everybody.
Okay. We got the football game in the background. Glad you guys have joined me once again. Brad will be back in just a second in case you guys are just joining us. I do have the chat pulled up both on Twitch and on YouTube over here on the right side of my monitor. I'll be checking those. Once again, we want to hear from you guys actively tonight as we go through and we chit chat, as we talk about our experiences through 9/11, where we're at now in 2021, how the last 20 years has shaped us as people, how 9/11 shaped us, and we would love to hear your thoughts. I will start when Brad gets back, but I'll say this, man, the last 2 days have been really emotional for me. And I've cried multiple times. I've cried yesterday and today. I've wanted to cry more than I've actually cried. But it's been a very emotional last couple of days for me because, as we'll talk about in a little bit, 9/11 was a very big day for me and me becoming who I am and how I feel, how I think. So anyways, I'm excited to kind of get back at it and chat with Brad here in just a few minutes, but glad you guys are in. Selena, welcome on in. The Basement Band, glad you guys are in. Basement Band. Mushi has joined us over on Twitch. Jake has joined us over on Twitch. Cheetah Man over on YouTube. Golden Child, welcome on out. Glad you're in. Jake the Sam Squash, what's going on? Aiden, hello. Says, has any 9/11 talk happened yet? Not quite yet. We'll get into that in just a little bit. Ty has joined us. Welcome on in, Ty. Brad will be joining us back in just a little bit. He's resetting stuff, making sure his internet isn't as bad as we think it is tonight. Man, here we go. So John has joined us. Hello, John. A different perspective. Civil commentary has joined us. That's awesome. Welcome on back, buddy. I saw you actually first one in the chat tonight. But yeah, we're going to have a good one. Cliff has joined us. That's right, Cliff. Welcome on in. Selena says, I'm still struggling with the lockdowns. I hear you. It's tough. And it's something that I think that I hope that people get out and start living. I got to be honest. I've been going out and living really for the last year. I mean, and if you were to come down and live in Texas right now, if you were to come down here for a week, wherever you're at in the United States, it is so drastically different from what I understand than any other place in the United States, because you would not know. I mean, outside of, I don't know, I'd say probably 30% of the people are wearing masks right now. But for the most part, if those people weren't wearing masks, you would not know that there was a global pandemic happening. People are living life. They're going out, they're going to Target, and they're playing soccer with their kids, and they're doing all the things that you would do. It's the exact same life as before. The only difference is that we're being told about these things that we can't do, or why we shouldn't be doing them, and how Texas is this horrible place. And I got to be honest, everybody who's living outside of Texas is pissed at Texas right now, because they think we're all just dying left and right. But the reality is that it's not happening that way. It's a total optics thing, and that's not the way it is. So it's crazy. It's crazy. Aperture DJ coming in talking about, I was too young to truly understand 9/11, but I do know that it was certainly a heartbreaking time for a lot of people. And simply knowing that it brought so many people together is all I need to know about how impactful it was. It takes a lot to unite us like that, right? Well, we're going to get into that quite a bit. And 9/12, 9/11 was a very big day. 9/12, I would say, was honestly probably almost, not, I'm going to say just as big, but as important as 9/11, because 9/11 was the day that everything got torn down, and 9/12 was the day where everyone got back up. And I'll talk about this here in a little bit, but I really tried to talk through things with my kids yesterday, and I'll share that with you when Brad returns. The Tick Rules resubbed at tier 1 for 8 months in a row over on twitch.tv/StutterandCraig. Thank you so much, Twitch. Appreciate that. Glad you guys are in. Yeah. Aiden says, yesterday morning I had to deliver 22 steps at North Texas. I don't even know what that means, Aiden, but I'm glad you're here. Glad you're in. Hatcher Dash has joined us. Let's go. Basement Band says, I'm a traveler in Florida now. Still don't go out. I'm a lazy musician. Hey, I understand. Hey, that's the thing though. That's your choice. If you want to go out, that's fine. The one thing that Brad and I have said consistently since the beginning of this is, if you're high risk, protect yourself. Take care of yourself. Protect the high risk, protect the vulnerable, and everyone else live their life. Toast Mac, good to see you. Resubbing tier 1 for 14 months. Is happy to be here. Great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us as well. Appreciate that. Lizzie Devine says, new sub here. Enjoy the content. Hey, Liz, hopefully you came in from Brad's. Oh, there we go. From Brad's new stuff. Brad will be joining us back again. His internet is not exactly what we call on the internet fast. So he's back actually resetting everything, trying to get it all set back up. We usually do this Sunday nights around 9 o'clock. This is episode 117 of the podcast. We've been doing it for a little bit now, and it's fun. We have a great time doing it. Glad you joined us. Armor Navarro says, college football Saturday was an awesome time. Almost back to normal as for a tailgate. Close, but not quite Nebraska. Oh, man. I'll tell you, I would love to visit Nebraska for a tailgate. We're actually going to be going to several college football games this year. I went to a high school football game on Friday night. I'm going to be going to another one here in October. And I'll tell you what, man, it's great. It's great being out. We didn't go to one last year. We went back, and it's honestly kind of like not missing a step. You kind of get back on and start riding the bike again. And it's really, really fun going back at it, man, for sure. Kingdom Traveler says, I didn't understand the impact of 9/11 immediately. I was at a point in my youth where I was a bit self-absorbed. Now that I have a better understanding of the world, I know it changed. I know it changed drastically with 9/11. Oh yeah, for sure. Well, we'll get into that. Like I said, in just a little bit once Brad returns. If you guys are interested, the football game is in the background. I'm sure someone will get pissed at me for that, but usually you don't see it because Brad's on the other side of the screen, and whatever. So. John says, the company I worked at closed on 9/11. You mean like it closed, period, or like it just closed for the day? Because that's intriguing. Because it's been really, what's the internet saying? Mask on, mask off. When people have their mask on, you see how they, see how they want to be perceived. When they take their mask off, it's how they really are. I would like to think that I've had my mask off for 15 years online, and you guys pretty much have a pretty good understanding of who I am and what I'm about, which is amazing. I've never put a mask on to hide anything from you guys. So, Golden Child says it's crazy how such a tragic event happened, but instantly everyone was just American and had each other's backs. And crazy how some groups have been trying their hardest since then to create division. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. Pretty fascinating, man. And anything and everything that they can do to divide. And one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight is, are we better or worse than where we were in September of 2001? I'm not talking about September 11th. I'm talking about, on September, let's just say 20 years ago, prior to September 11th, are we better off now than we were? And one of the things that I was going to talk to Brad about tonight, and I'll obviously talk with you guys about, Brad will be joining us once again in just a few minutes, but I never thought we'd reach a point in this country to where saying that you love America and saying that you are passionate about being America would be seen as a political statement. And that is probably the one of the most saddest, shocking things that has transpired for me, probably in the last 20 years. And for that reason, I think we're worse off, in that instance. But I think there are things that are obviously better. But the fact that can be seen as a political statement is crazy to me. So, it is, but that's where we're at right now. So John Stansberry, welcome on in. He says, "Hey, Craig, I'm 39. Could you wish me happy birthday?" Hey, John Stansberry. No. No, of course. Love it. Real quick, a different perspective is, as for COVID in Texas, our hospitals are reaching capacity in Texas. How can that be ignored? Not being political, just facts. Are they facts? Because I've been in plenty of hospitals, and I know plenty of people who work in hospitals, in different hospitals, and you know what they say to me? Everything the media says divided by half. That's what they've told me. I've had multiple people. I've had 3 people told me who work at 3 different hospitals tell me the exact same thing. It's not nearly as bad as people say. And this is coming from people who treat these people. So, I'm just, I don't know. Like I said, I'm just going off my firsthand takes from people who are there firsthand. So, and that to me is just the facts. You can look at numbers all day. I'm talking with people who are doing it and are in it. So, it is what it is. So Stacy says, I'm very, very grateful that God kept us safe all the time. Well, most of the time, Lisa says, registered nurse here, RN, have 4 in ICU and 2 are vaxxed. So 2 of the 4 are vaxxed. So just out of curiosity, Lisa, if you wouldn't mind, how many ICU beds do you have at your hospital? Are you guys close to capacity? What's it look like? What's your personal situation? Because I always, we always like to hear hear how you guys are doing. We want to extend the conversation as much as possible. So please contribute as best you can, because I like to hear from people who are actually there on the front lines, who are being a part of it. And by the way, thank you for what you do. You are an everyday hero who does a thankless job that needs to be acknowledged. So Lisa, thank you very much. Or Liza, I'm not quite sure how to say your name. Please let me know in the chat. But thank you very much for what you do. You are an everyday hero. So thank you very much for that. It's amazing. Keanu Reeves says, I said this many, many times, and I'll say it again. How dare people try to claim a pandemic is a political issue when it is clearly a health issue? Well. How high? Yeah. Lisa says we are not close to capacity at all. We have 10 beds, and it's Lisa. Okay, very good. All right, Lisa, thank you very much. But yeah, it's Video Game Pollock says 10 beds, 4 people, 50% sounds more scary than 4 people. Yeah, 100%. When you say, when you throw percentages out, that triggers people. But if you say, hey, 4 of the 10 beds were taken, like 50%, your mind wanders. When you start hearing percentages, your mind starts going places, right? Like 80% of our beds are taken. Well, 8 of 10 beds are taken. There's still 20% left. It's, I don't know. It's just, it's an interesting time for sure. Neo Geo, good to see you. Welcome on out. Neo Geo, who came in during Old School Week, is back and better than ever. Says, I feel like we're worse off socially than we were in 2001. We weren't so dependent on outside opinion or social media as we are now. Neo Geo, that's interesting. And I think that's really, I think you'll find a lot of people that desperately agree with you on that, Neo Geo. I think there's a lot of people who can't hold conversations nowadays without having their phone in their hand, who can't hold conversations on their phone because they want to do it in 240 characters or 280 characters or less, whatever it is. And there's a lot of people who, I had this personal theory many, many years ago that I thought the divorce rate was going to skyrocket with technology becoming a bigger part of our technology, of our life. And I don't know if that's necessarily happened, but I do think that our ability to communicate has severely worsened. It's almost like we've taken a step back, where as we deal with emojis and emojis do the speaking, it's almost like we're taking a step back to hieroglyphics, with the ancient pharaohs of the day, for sure. So pretty crazy. Basement Band says, I just cleaned surgical instruments. I'm in the basement sterile processing. When I showed up in Tampa, we did 200 surgeries a day. Now it's 110. Interesting for sure. Yeah, for sure. Once again, Brad will be joining us back here in just a little bit. He's resetting his computer. He'll be joining us. And if he doesn't, I'll just talk to you guys about my experience with 9/11, and Brad will just have to deal with it because it is what it is. But I will tell you this. Mushi gifted a tier 1 sub to John Stansberry on his birthday. Love that, John. Welcome on out. Happy birthday. For real this time. Glad you've joined us. Lead Sword, glad you're in. Says, yes, we are better off than 20 years ago. Lead Sword, I would love to hear your perspective. And once again, I love everyone's conversation here. It's obviously a topic that I think a lot of people will be very passionate about, whether it's socially, obviously economically, whether where we're at just across the board. We left the question open to allow conversation. Are we better off? Well, in what way? You tell us. Which ways are we better off? Which ways are we not? So please fire away as best as possible. Keanu Reeves says, when you say, are we better off? A lot of things consider: economy, national security, crime rate, quality of life, work-life balance. Am I missing anything? I'm sure there's a million things you're missing in there. But like I said, we left it very wide open for sure. So, Stacy says, I do feel better when I go to church every Sunday. I think a lot of people do. Whether you go to church or not, I think there is something to really, when you have faith in something, I think there's something to be said about that. Whether you believe in God or a God or your God or whatever it may be, or whatever it is you believe in, just having that pillar in your life to be able to go out and whether it's on a Sunday, whether it's on a Wednesday, whatever it is, whether you just get together with your friends, just having those things that allow you to feel normal are very important. And I feel for a lot of the last 18 months, there's a good portion of people who have had that ripped away, and ultimately they don't feel normal because of that. So I'm glad you feel normal. That's great. A different perspective says, Abbott requested for federal assistance to address the pandemic. 80% is a big number. I am by no means trying to fearmonger, just tossing facts. Take them as you may, and I'll respect you. Well, I appreciate that. That's all we ask. We're not trying to fearmonger either. I didn't hear anything about an 80% number of ICU beds or anything like that in use in Texas. I could be wrong, but I haven't heard anything about that. So if 80% is the number, 80% is the number. It is what it is. So. Basement Ben says, I think people think Corona is a joke. I view it like the chicken box. Well, it's interesting. I think it really kind of depends on who you talk to. I think there's people who are like, listen, you better take this thing extremely seriously. And some people are like, look, whatever, I think the people who are looking at this like it's May 20 or March 2020, still, I think those people need to get educated. They're also the people who think they're the most educated people there are, because we've learned a lot about this disease in the last 18 months, right? And the fact that we're still talking about this disease 18 months later is crazy. And, obviously there's new variants, and there's new variants not just of the disease, but other factors that lead to the variants happening and all that. So, I've said from the start, I think coronavirus is very much real. I feel like that, the fact that I need to qualify that is insane, but I very much feel like COVID is real. It has definitely killed many, many people. Do I think some of the numbers are exaggerated? Yes, I do. But it is what it is. Okay, Brad will be joining us back in just a few minutes. I see him. Let's see if he's going to join us. Hello, Brad.
Hey.
There you go.
I'm on my phone.
I know. I can tell.
Yeah. My modem is like dead or something. It died. So
that's okay.
Here I am. I felt like look, we're 30 minutes into the show. Apologize, I'm back. So
you sound like you're on your phone, but that's okay. Whatever.
It is what it is at this
point. It is what it is. That's right. That's right.
Thanks for hanging in there, people.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. Well, we were just talking about just 9/11 as a whole, and COVID, and I didn't want to go too deep into things. I wanted to allow people to have their opportunity to talk about if we are better off now or not compared to 20 years ago, whether it's socially, economically, whatever, and allow people to kind of say whatever they want to say. So, it's been pretty good. Aperture DJ says, I feel that people aren't as good at keeping conversations civil these days. For some reason, people don't feel to be able to socialize without making it about proving who's right. Oh man. Ding, ding, ding. He says, when often I find that it's not about who's right. It's about two people with differing opinions, and neither one is right or wrong. It's just two or more people with different life experiences. In my opinion, that's simply there's simply not enough time in life to be able to know everything, and that's okay. A ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Man, what a great quote right there. That's outstanding. That is great. Real quick, we had a super chat just a few minutes ago, and I kind of went by it, and I didn't even see it when it came in. So I'm sorry, Joseph. Thank you so much for the $7 super chat. Let me see if I can find this really quick. Where did you go? I'll read it really fast. It said, and I quote, "ScrewAttack actually helped me get through a tough time in my life after losing my dad in late 2006. I was in my mid-20s." And it was a good distraction. Well, Joseph, thank you very much, man. Greatly appreciate that. It's amazing how often I hear that, and I think that is such a wonderful thing. I'm glad we were able to do that for you, man, and it makes me very, very happy. So I'm sorry about your dad. Hopefully, you've been able to continue on with his legacy and be a great man. So congratulations, Joseph. So okay, so you want to talk about you want to dig into this a little bit and kind of our personal experiences from 9/11 and how that all went, how it all happened?
Yeah.
You want me to start?
Yeah. Where were you? Because you weren't where I was.
No. So let me just. I said this earlier when you weren't in, but I'll say this now. Yes, the last 2 days have been very emotional for me. I've cried multiple times. I cried. I wept last night or yesterday morning. I tried so hard to explain to my 7 and 9-year-old girls the importance of 9/11. And as I was doing so, I had the news feed on of the ceremony that was happening, and it was very hard to explain. And I actually showed my daughters footage of, I tried to explain, well, there's these, they get a really high level of this at school, really high level. And they know about, these planes went into these towers, and, my 7-year-old who's in first grade is like, we did a moment of silence, but I felt like it was important to tell them about it and show them. So I actually showed them the planes going in the buildings. I showed them the buildings collapsing, and then I switched back over to the ceremony. And as I was doing this, some say like 7 and 9, like once again, they're 7 and 9. They don't truly grasp the importance of this. Most 13-year-olds, those 14, 15-year-old kids don't truly grasp And I gotta say, I didn't truly grasp it at 20 years old when it happened, but trying to explain that to them, and there was points where I'm trying to be like a strong dad, right? But there were points where I just had to get up and walk away, and I was just crying, like because of just it was like taking a knife to a wound again and just twisting it. And the crazy thing about it was I didn't lose anybody at 9/11. What I feel like we lost was a lot of our civil liberties, and the things that we had prior. I think about life before 9/11 and how drastically different it was. That was definitely a pinpoint, definitely a indicator where life changed dramatically that way, whether you wanted it to or not. Saya came in with the $5 super chat. Says I lost my uncle on 9/11.
Wow.
He was in the building. That's incredibly sad. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, sorry.
And obviously we didn't lose anybody that we knew personally, but it was definitely one of those things where, man, I feel for anybody who ever lost anybody. So
yeah.
Saya came back with the $5 super chat. Says, back in 9/11 when I lost my uncle, I couldn't stop crying because I loved my uncle so much. I still miss him today. Right. And rightfully so, for sure.
That's the most incredible thing about the entire experience is if whether you lost somebody or you watched it on TV unfold, every year, that feeling, if you lived during that time, that feeling just comes back every single year.
Right.
Like you know exactly where you were and what happened and how you felt. And that I can't imagine, losing a relative on top of what America just saw on the TV. I feel for that for sure.
So me personally, on September 11th, 2001, I was in my car driving to my first class in college. And I remember I remember exactly where I was. I was in Louisville, Texas, getting ready to get on the highway on I-35 North to Denton. And I was listening to 102.1 The Edge, and Julie was the DJ in the morning with somebody. And I remember her saying, like, once again, these are just like little ancillary things. I don't know anything about what happened in that show that day. I couldn't point out another morning show with The Edge and Julie or whoever it was any other day, but this day in particular. And I remember them saying, their trio or whatever, however many people were on the show, saying something to the effect of like, someone just ran a plane into the World Trade Center. What's that about? And they kind of laughed it off and were like, ho, 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 what a bunch of idiots. And I remember them like laughing and poking fun at the idea that there's some idiot who they thought was a small prop plane, like most people. When you hear a plane, you think it's just some little biplane or something that went into it. And so I continued to listen throughout the morning and the next 20, 25 minutes till I got to school. And I remember going to the GAB, the General Academic Building at North Texas, where I had my first class. You had to go downstairs, actually go underneath the building in the basement to where my class was. And this wasn't like today where everyone had a TV on their, on them at all times. We went down, and I remember the professor, I don't remember who the professor was, but I just remember the professor saying like, yeah, we're not going to have class today. And we sat there and we watched the news and we watched as things were happening. And from there it was just kind of blurry. I think as it was for a lot of folks, it was just kind of a haze of experience. I can't tell you anything else about that day when I came home. I just remember just being in a weird haze throughout the whole day of like, what is happening right now? And I do remember going home because I lived with our parents at the time. And, I was 20 years old and living with mom and dad. And I remember it was probably a couple days after 9/11. We have a flight path that flies directly in to DFW Airport that over our house. And all you hear all day are planes coming in over and over and over again. Literally every 90 seconds, you got a plane coming in. And I remember several days later, after they grounded all the planes, standing outside with mom and her saying, "You will never hear the sound of this again, where there's no planes in the sky. You'll never hear this again."
Mhm.
And unfortunately, and she was right up until last year when they grounded the planes and COVID and everything like that. That was the second time it happened. And I very much thought of that. So, for me, it was definitely a very hazy experience. And I remember seeing and hearing, when airports kind of reopened, the extreme measures that were taken in security. Because prior to security, you could just walk up. Prior to everyone could go through the gate, and everybody could go to the gate of where your flight was leaving. Right, everyone would go through security. But now it's only the people who are flying. And I remember seeing the giant AK-47s, like very big guns in in the DFW airport. And I thought, man, this is like, what is happening right now? This is absolutely crazy, because I don't know, probably flew several months later, but I remember being very jarred by seeing that just hanging out in the airport. And obviously we don't have that today as much. It's not as full force in front of you, but it was definitely jarring. And yeah, it was crazy. And like I said, I think about that day often. I legitimately think about 9/11. And I say this with no sarcasm at all. I legitimately think of 9/11 every single time I see a plane. Every single time. And there are things that you hear, when I hear, the plane taking off or a plane going overhead, which once again, we have a flight plan over where we lived. People talk about like getting triggered or having some sort of PTSD or being scared. Like I said, I was not there. I wasn't in New York, but it still affected me, and it still affects me today. Very much so.
Yeah, I think it affected everybody. I mean, in the same way that COVID has affected everybody, like you were saying earlier, mentally, for sure. For me,
what about you?
Yeah, for me, I was living at home with mom and dad as we were. I was 18 years old. I came downstairs that morning, and mom had the news on in her bedroom, and she's like, "There's a plane crashed into the Twin Towers," and I didn't quite understand it. I was kind of like, "Oh, that sucks," because I'm like 18. I'm self-absorbed into my own world, and and just like you said, like the radio show that you were listening to, like you hear plane crash into a building, you're like, you don't even think of the idea that you're under attack. I mean,
Right.
At least not immediately at that time in America, at least not for me as an 18-year-old or whatever. So I didn't think much of it. I was just sort of like, oh, whoa. And, the more I watched what was happening and heard, all the reports coming in, like all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, like my youth was sort of being removed. My naive outlook on the world was sort of being removed, one story at a time, every hour as the news was reported. And I had a voice lesson that day, I remember. And that was very weird, because I went in and I took like 3 voice lessons from this place. And this was like my second or third one. And I just started them, and I have a check. When you used to write checks and they'd leave the copy of it underneath in the checkbook, I have a copy of that still, because I had to write a check for my voice lesson that day. And I remember talking to the teacher at the time, just being like, "Oh, that's really sad, isn't it?" And like, it wasn't quite, it's not what it is now when you say 9/11. It was as it was happening, like, God, isn't that crazy what's happening? It's like, yeah, that's crazy. What is happening? And I after that, I really just remember just being glued to the TV, just watching TV for probably, like, I don't even know, 3 days straight or something like that.
Right.
I remember watching Tower 7 fall, and I remember sitting there just in a daze with my head against, I was laying on the couch. I remember just like having like tears in my eyes the more I realized what was happening. You hear people are jumping out of the building, and like then you start to think like they had to make that decision. They had to decide, whether or not they were going. That's always stuck with me. That's been a big thing with me with 9/11 is the people inside there had to make so many decisions so fast, and all of them had to do with how they were going to die. You know, like I can't. We can't put ourselves into that position, into that mind frame. What all those people to had to go through in those moments, in those final moments of, do I stay here or do I jump? And those are the saddest images, I think I'll ever see in my life. And that's why it's upsetting, when you see people comparing 9/11 to, what happened on January 6th, and you go like, you're like, really, are we're doing that now? And there's no comparison. There's just no comparison whatsoever.
Right.
But that's all I really remember, just being glued and just feeling like I had just started my career as a songwriter. Like I had graduated high school. I had the summer. I started recording my first songs. I started 5 Times August that summer. And my first few shows were September 15th and 16th. And I went to the mall. I stood in line for an hour to buy a flag sticker to put on my guitar. Everybody was buying flags. It was like the most patriotic feeling ever. Like people were banding together. And I wrote about this last year, my memories of that time and the tone of the country and how we were all just together. It didn't matter how mad, or it didn't matter like what race you were at the time. It didn't matter what your sexual orientation was. All these things that we worry about and consume ourselves with every day. It was just sort of like, hey, we're all Americans. We're in this together. And we were so close to, if we could have held on to that, we would be in such a good place right now, 20 years down the road. Like if we had been able to take 9/11 and go, silver lining, America really became America United after that. And we never looked, we learned like to never let ourselves go. But instead, we completely have unraveled over the last 20 years. Individually, I say this a lot, is up until 9/11, I didn't think once in my life about people's color of their skin or who they were, their race or anything like that, until the TV started talking about racial profiling and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden I like, it's kind of like the TV was telling me like, oh, you like it's confusing me. It's like, are we supposed to be looking at each other differently? Because I never did that before. It never registered in my brain my entire life if someone was black or brown or Asian up until after 9/11. And that always kind of made me upset because I never thought about it. And now we're so obsessed with it every moment through media reports and everything. And that even people on the internet can't even talk about 9/11 this year without I do have a picture still pulled up from Jen M. Jackson on Twitter. She had posted, we have to be more honest about what 9/11 was and what it wasn't. It wasn't it was an attack on hetero-patriarchal capitalistic systems that America relies upon to wrangle other countries into passivity. It was an attack on the systems many white Americans fight to protect. And I tweeted back to her and I was just like, all you had to do was say, never forget. That's all you had to do was just say, gosh, that was a terrible time. Let's just not forget it. Let's try to reconnect with who we were that month afterwards. And what these people do is they block you. I had a few interactions like that yesterday. There you go.
Right.
Yeah, it's just like, why couldn't you have done that? Why can't you just leave it alone? Why do we have to take 9/11 of all days and twist it and turn it into something? So that upset me, and it upsets me. I really think it's just such a low thing to do.
Saya came in with
Anyway.
the five Canadian super chat. Thank you so much, Saya. Says my parents picked me up from school to watch TV, and two men came to tell me the news of Uncle died. I cried and screamed in my room all day. I absolutely could relate to that for sure. It's a horrible experience, and I'm sorry to hear that. It's horrible. Tai says, question, and I honestly don't know the answer, but we always talk about how united we were. Did that include Arabs? Did that include Muslims? I don't know. I think you'd have to ask them, Tai. And I guess I'm going to follow up with what Brad said. I never in my life saw race ever until people started saying, like it's crazy, and people go, well, you're part of the problem. Really? Because I don't see, because I look at people at how based off of the content of their character, based off of the people that they are, I'm part of the problem, right? And that's crazy to me. And I don't understand it. Like I was saying before you came on, Brad, I never thought I'd see a day in our world where saying that you love or that you're proud to be an American, that you love the American flag, is seen as divisive and political. That's crazy. That's crazy to me. Gel Blaster guy, thank you so much for the 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sad thing that. Go ahead.
I was just saying thank you very much. Saya came in also with the $5 super chat. Says, appreciate your existences, Craig and Brad, very much. Thank you. Thanks for existing, both of you. Well, we do our best, man. That we do our best to exist and fight through all the insanity that's happening right now. I think that's crazy. So, a different perspective says, you guys are not racist. You two make inclusive content.
Oh.
There you go, man. Thanks. I know, Brad. You're on a little delay, and I'm gonna try to pause for a second. So if you guys are just popping in, Brad is joining us via his phone today because his browser or something, I don't know, says something's messed up with his router. So
I think my modem has died.
It's dead. It's dead.
I think my modem's dead, and now I'm going through my phone.
All right. Lauren came in. Lauren, it's good to see you. Thank you so much for the 500 bits. Lauren is a wonderful legend. Came over from YouTube and now has found a home over on Twitch. Lauren, it's great to see you. Sunday nights we talk about a little more serious stuff. Now we're talking about some 9/11 things. We're talking about our experiences and things like that. And I went in and I went in and I was trying to think about things that the theme of the night is, are we better off than we were 20 years ago? And there's a lot of things in that question. Are we? Who's we? Better off? Better off how than 20 years ago? Really, the only definitive thing in there is 20 years ago, like is the time frame. Are we better off than we were 20 years ago? Or does that mean socially? I don't know. That's totally up to you. But I'll say this. I think that there are things that we are absolutely better off now because of technology and honestly because of age. I think that I'm 40 years old now, and I think when you're 20, you're an absolute fool. For the most part, you do a lot of stupid things. You don't really think through everything. You think you know everything, but you truly don't. And as you get older, you figure things out. So for that, I'll say I personally am better than I am than I was when I was 20 years old, for sure. But there you go. But it's really up to that's a personal situation. But like I said, from a worse off perspective, I do think that we are considerably worse off from a divisiveness perspective. I've never seen things so divisive now, which is crazy. It goes back to the statement of like how you can say you're proud to be American, and that's seen as an extremely divisive statement now somehow. So yeah, there are definitely some things that are positive and negative about. Well, what about you, Brad? And chat, please continue. If you have anything, if you feel like, oh. Go ahead, Brad.
No, listen, can you hear me okay? Because a lot of what you said on my end, it was really choppy. I'm having a hard time during this show staying connected with you.
You're good,
guys.
Brad. Go. Just talk about, are we better or worse off?
Okay. Oh gosh. You know, we are better off. I said this a few weeks ago. We just have a lot of film on top of a really wonderful time in life. A lot of crap and gunk and just whatever. All this film that just layers over the best time to be alive. And we keep ourselves from reaching that great point. The internet, for example, is a great tool. We could use it to connect with each other. We could use it to do wonderful things to make the world a better place, but we don't. We use it to argue and fight and share nonsense, for the most part. We don't do well with the tools that we have. And, we have a whole generation that grew up post 9/11 that has grown up without, World War II grandparents to sort of give them some perspective on what life was like back then. I think that the generation that has grown up over the last 20 years has really been catered to, and they're just so soft that they don't understand how great they have it. So they have to, focus on, feeling not included because, it's the participation trophy sort of ideal, which I didn't really have a problem with for many years. It's just sort of like, oh, whatever. I didn't think too hard about it. But now, I'm just like, that was a bad decision for us to do that, to reward kids for doing nothing, because now they've all grown up and they think that they just are sort of deserved of whatever they want.
The trophy generation is a pretty crazy thing. And for me personally, I've been very adamant about, I've coached a youth girls soccer team for the past 4 years, right? And that's 8 seasons. We're going into our 9th, and we've been very successful. But I will, if we're not successful, they don't get their trophies. And I've been very adamant about that. If they finish second, sorry, I literally won't even pick up their second place badges or their whatever, because they didn't win. They came in second, and I think that's more of a life. Like some people say, that's really hard. That's really hard and cold of you. Well, no, the goal is to win. The goal is to win. And if you don't win, if you're not successful, then you don't get the trophy. You don't get something just for showing up. That's not how life works. But unfortunately, over the last 18 months, that is exactly how life has worked. You've gotten something for doing absolutely nothing. With stimulus checks and all sorts of stuff. So
yeah,
we have a couple of super chats that I need to hit really quick. Chancho came in with the super chat, says pitching in to help the modem. Thank you so much, Chancho.
Thank you.
And Lisa came in with the $4.99 super chat. Lisa is a registered nurse, by the way.
Okay.
New sub because of your music, Brad. So that's good.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Toastamac says, I must agree with the notion with a heavy heart that we are actually worse off now than we were 20 years ago. I remember when I saw the horrific event unfold when I was at home with my parents, we lost two important buildings, too many lives, and our sense of security. On that day, we were wounded in a way that we previously might not have thought possible. And now it feels that the same sense of paranoia and distrust has continued to tighten its grasp on us. Am I wrong about this? Brad?
Pull that up one more time. Let me see it. Let's see. There's definitely a higher sense of paranoia and distrust, for sure. And where we're at now, I don't think there's ever going to be I don't know if we'll be going back. I think we're just entering a new era of information. We're literally in the middle of an information war. And you have one half of people that are saying, I'm right, and you have another half of people that are saying I'm right. Well, one of us is wrong, and like one side of the aisle is going to, at some point in the near future, I think, is going to be able to say, "Look, I told you so." And it's just an interesting thing. I think that the paranoia is heightened, but I don't think that it's necessary. And so we've focused, fear. We've talked about this on the show. Uh, Thank you, Basement Band. We've talked about this on the show. If it bleeds, it leads. And I think that the media is going crazy with if it bleeds, it leads, because they're hanging on. I mean, you look at how the internet has changed media, what's happening with, anything for a click, because that's they've got to grasp for those pennies, those fractions of a pennies, because that's what's keeping them in business. So we get clickbaited, and this has been going on for over a decade. So I think we're just at the sort of the peak of it all. And at some point, I think that the truth will have to come out. I think that the paranoia will crumble very quickly once we reach a certain point, and I don't know what point that is, but I think that it's going to reach a point where people go, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I don't think I needed to behave like that." I hope.
I think for me, the thing that we're seeing right now is technology has proven that it's a wonderful thing. The internet, in particular, is an amazing, like you said, a great tool. The problem is that we've pushed it too far. We've created these social networks where these social media platforms where people are ostracized for having the wrong opinion, and the groupthink is so strong that it doesn't allow people the opportunity to say what they want to say, or they get straight out of booted off the platform or canceled or whatever it may be. And there's tremendous issues with that. And like I said, I feel like it's gone a little bit too far, and the money attached to these platforms, when you can sway news and deliver things that are delivered to you personally and create the constant echo chamber, that's very scary. That's very, very scary. I mean, the thing is, it's not even personalized. It's personalized based off of what they feel you should have, not based off the idea that you selected to see this or not. Hey, Twitter thinks you should see this. Google thinks you should see this. Not you think you should see that. Which is crazy.
Well, the insane thing is, like, you speak of echo chambers. Like, I have a guy on my Facebook right now who's railing on me, saying I live in an echo chamber, and I'm like, you're here commenting mad because I've spoken about something that is outside of your echo chamber. You're mad because you're hearing things outside of your own echo chamber. And that's the most insane thing about the conversation that's happening in America, and why you can't have a conversation, it seems like, is because it's just a blame game. It's just a big blame game where somebody comes on and says, "Well, you're living in an echo chamber." And I'm like, for me, I'm asking questions. Are you asking questions, or are you just going to the source that you want, to hear your side of the story from? But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just an insane time because you can't even have the conversation. It's just one side's blaming the other, and we're both sort of doing it. But I think that the side that's asking questions, that wants questions answered, is probably going to be the winning side of the argument at the end of the day, instead of the side that went, "Well, it was on the news," and they didn't ask anything else after that. That's
following up with that. Well, Golden Child says the issue is you don't know who to trust or what info is correct, regardless of the subject matter. Right. The amount of there's the stat going around about the people who actually trust the news. It's such a relatively low number right now. People who actually believe what they hear on the news. And it's like, well, then what are we doing? How do you not? If you can't trust the news and get information that you can trust and you believe, then it's not the news. It's just an entertainment outlet. You know,
well, I think the thing is, we all know you can go to channel A and get, you know, this side of the story.
Go to Fox, see this. Go to CNN,
Go
see
to
this.
channel B, get this side of the
MSNBC,
story.
right?
That's why people are going to, you know, alternative sources and putting their own information together. But the problem with that is that the mainstream outlets are teaching people to mock you for that. They're teaching you to, oh, you're doing your own, you know, you're doing your own research. And it's just, you know, it's like, yeah, you can, you know, you can do that with anything, right? Like,
well, look,
you can research and teach yourself anything if you want to learn it. You don't have to go to, you know, guitar school to learn guitar. You can sit down and teach yourself that. You can do that with medicine. You know, you can do that with anything that you want to learn about. That's the great thing about the internet, is that we have all this information at our fingertips. The problem now is that it's being filtered, and you're being shown what, you know, your search results are being shown to you based on a back end of what they want you to know, instead of it just being like a library where you can just go pick out the book you want.
You know, you talk about like the divisiveness of this, and I think, you know, President Biden came out and he does mandate for vaccines or whatever he did a couple days ago, and that was obviously pretty shocking, right? And some people were like, "It's about time," right? And some people were like, "Hey, fuck you," right? I think if you were to take that exact same speech, give it to our president 1 year ago, have him deliver the exact same speech, and everyone is going, "It's about time," would be like, "Fuck that guy." And everyone who's like, and everyone's saying, "Fuck that guy," now would be like, "You know what? You're probably right." You know, like it's and that's the saddest thing about it. It's so tribal right now, for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the whole thing with the vaccines, is everybody that was telling you that they weren't going to trust a vaccine, they're the ones that are now 100% you better get it or you're out of society.
Right.
They were the ones that said, "I'm not getting that thing."
This goes back to what Golden Child said. He said, you don't know who to trust, regardless of whether the subject is. This is coming from our president. This is coming from the news. You know, like, once again, the flip flop has been nonstop. You know, whether it's been COVID or the vaccine, or whether it's been social justice, like, pick a lane, stay in the lane, ride it out. You know, and I understand that science is ever changing, right? That's fine. Address that. At no point has anybody ever said, you know, and it's just, there's so much happening right now, and it goes back to I was really, and I am hopeful that 9/11, this 20th anniversary, can kind of galvanize people once again, and I think it has for people who were there, right, and those who weren't there, the younger generation that maybe was too young to understand. That, you know, probably between the ages of 0 and 23 right now, right? They don't understand. They don't understand the situation. Do 24, 25, 26. You know, they may have understood a little bit, you know, because once again, let's say you're 6 years old and you're seeing this on TV in 2001. You're 26 now, and you still don't truly grasp it, you know? So,
right. Yeah. We went to a school called McAuliffe Elementary, which is named after Kristen McAuliffe, you know, the famous teacher went into space. And so I remember seeing that image on the TV. Actually, they showed it to us in school as a kid. I remember seeing it, but I didn't connect the tragedy to it. So I think when you see those things, I mean, like I said, when I was 18, I woke up that morning, September 11th, 2001. I didn't understand the tragedy of it until it started unfolding in front of me. But if you're 6 years old or younger or whatever in 2001, I don't think that was going to resonate with you for another decade, if that, because what's happened since you were a kid is that we've become such a self-absorbed society and such a callous society that the tragedy of it anyway might not even touch you, because we're inundated with tragedy all the time. Gun violence and racial violence and this violence and that violence and who got shot last week, and oh, it's just part of life now. So 9/11, I don't think is if you didn't live and know what America was like before then, and pre social media days especially, I don't think it's going to touch you the same way, is all I'm saying.
Travis says, I disagree. I think people who were anti-vax would be anti-vax if Trump said get it or not. Yeah, I was speaking more broadly, Trav, but I agree with you, in some respects, for sure.
Well, see, that's the thing, though, is Trump has said, like, I recommend the vaccine. He recommends it. This was his whole thing, right? And that's been one of my questions, like, to people that are like, oh, the Trump supporters will do anything Trump says. They don't want it. And the guy has said, go ahead and get it if you want to get it. They're not following his lead the way that, the left would make you believe. So clearly they have something of a mind of their own, is all I'm saying.
A different perspective says, would you guys say F you to George Washington? He mandated vaccines. I disagree with Craig. Lefties would have taken it if Trump was president. They are the party of science, man. Interesting take. Would I say F you to George Washington? It depends on the vaccine. Is it experimental? Have there been long-term effects, long-term studies attached to it? Are the companies that are handing it out, can they be held liable for it? For anything that happens to it? That, for me, once again, is the thing that I'll always go back to, is that there's no liability for anybody right now. And that's the thing. When that changes, okay, I'll consider it. Absolutely, I'll consider it. But that's, for me, that's the biggest, going back to that speech that Biden gave the other day, is like, he's like, what's the deal? What's holding up? It's free. It's, and he gave these lists, and it's like, I would legitimately love just to get, like, I don't know, like, you see Dr. Fauci going around and doing these interviews and stuff, right? I would love for him to come on our show and just give us 10 minutes so we can ask these questions. And I would
Dr. Fauci?
Yes.
He's not coming on this show.
No. I know. But at the same time, just have that conversation. Be like, this is why. Why do these companies have the ability to say, well, sorry, you died, and have no legal repercussions? What can change, And would I say F you to George Washington? There's a number of factors attached to it. Once again, I'm not anti-vax. I'm not anti-vax at all. Like, I think vaccines are an absolute modern marvel. I think they are fascinating and one of the best things that has been accomplished in humanity. Period. The number of diseases that have been eradicated because of vaccines and proper testing, I think is a wonderful thing. But anybody who is hesitant for this vaccine in particular, then I don't hold any grudges for. I don't. So.
Well, you got to think, like, what are you asking with that question? George Washington, if George Washington was president right now, or if we're back, back in the day, are we back in the day with George Washington in a completely different time period of just life in general? Like, you got to put it in context of time, the time and the space. We're living in a time right now where we're at war with information. We are not seeing what we're told with our own eyes. We have to, for me, I was talking to a friend today who said, my whole concern, my number one question is, what are the long-term studies? That's my first question with this thing. And there are no long-term studies. You can't say that, you can't tell us what the long-term effects are for the vaccine. So there's no answer. And that's a big concern for a lot of people. So
Lisa, who is a registered nurse, says, I'm looking at losing my job if they don't give me my religious exemption on the vax. I think it's important that you make sure you get fired. Don't quit. Yeah. Don't quit. I'm not here to give you any sort of advice but I would just say if I was in your shoes, I would not quit. I would make them fire me, so you can have unemployment and all those things get marked down. They want you to quit. Don't quit.
What a horrible situation to be in right now. Like the fact that, like, I'm sorry that you're in that situation. And I'm sorry for every nurse who was held up and regarded last year as a hero that's now being told, you're not allowed to be there. You've got to pick. I don't think people understand like what this means to freedom, to your ability to provide for your family. The people that are like, yeah, go get another job. It's disgusting to put so many millions of people in that position. I'm sorry to hear that you're in that situation.
Going back to 9/11, Kingdom Telever says, it does feel like 9/11 inspired a bunch of terrorist groups, some of which we're fighting today. So there were several 9/11 documentaries, one on Hulu, one on Netflix. The Netflix one was a 5-part series where they essentially took the first part was about the actual events itself of the day. Then the next 3 parts were essentially, they were it was pretty political, right? It is like, man, George Bush was just a trash president. And I watched through them, and it talked about the decisions that were made and the rash decisions that were made to go and really, drone strike and the overreach of governments with the Patriot Act and things like that. But it also discussed about, how we were bombing these areas and to try to take out these members of Al-Qaeda. And along the way, you're killing all these civilians. So naturally, these civilian families think the United States is just the worst thing in the world, and we are the enemy, right? So naturally, when you're the enemy, that pushes people to become radicalized. And all of a sudden, you as the United States, who just bombed this small village, guess what? There's, you killed a mom, her baby, and 2 sons. Well, guess what? The rest of the people in the village are pissed now. And that is how you have terrorists who want to return the favor, and that's scary. That's really scary, So yeah, I think Keaton Schuyler, to follow back up what you're saying, I think, yeah, it did inspire a lot of folks, and based off of the United States actions. So yeah, it's
I haven't
scary
watched
stuff.
that. Yeah, I haven't watched that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That documentary.
Coffee and Conversation says, you won't qualify for unemployment if you either quit or get fired for not taking the vaccine. Please don't let anyone anyone get you to think you will. Wait, you won't qualify for unemployment if you either quit or get fired. So you're just shit out of luck if that's the case. And maybe that is dependent on the states you're in and the situations. That could be. Coffee and Conversation, please continue, like add more to that, please. And is that a state specific thing? Because if that's the case, that's fucked up. Like you getting fired because I think the issue for me with a lot of these things is you got your job without that being a thing. Mm-hmm. And then there's like, well, you changed the rules. Sorry, you got to put this in your body. And that's the most messed up thing to me. See. There was a video of a fire chief in Hawaii who'd been there for 35 years, and he had to, or whatever, 30 something years or whatever it may be, super long time, decades. And he had to resign because he, like, medically or whatever reason, it doesn't matter. He just didn't want to do it. So they're like, yeah, you're fired. Sorry. And he's weeping about it. He's all about just serving the community. That's wrong. That's wrong. So,
yeah.
Anyways. You got what else you got, Brad? We're going for an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, no.
At least
I'm
have.
glad to be here with my internet. Yeah, I know. I apologize for the internet once more, but I appreciate y'all sticking with me tonight. Streaming off my iPhone, I was worried that my iPhone would just not connect. So here we are. It's one of the modern marvels of today, here in the year 2021, that I can now use my phone to make a TV show for the internet with my brother. Right. So, that's one of the small ways that we are better off these days. We have such a great way to connect with each other. It's just that everybody is in each other's way. And it's a frustrating thing when every single news story, especially the worst ones, are piped into our psyche every single day, and then every single person's opinions are piped in there every single day. And it's a strange battle. I mean, that's kind of what I've written about with the song Silent War that I put out, is that we are in the middle of this battle, and it's kind of all through our phones and technology.
Luffy has a question. It says, I want to ask a question that has been burrowing in my head. What if 9/11 was caused not by foreign powers, but rather our own government to justify taking our freedoms? I think you'd be looking at one of the biggest conspiracy theories in the history of mankind. And some people believe that's the case. I think 9/11 is a line of demarcation where I think that was probably one of the originators of people really digging in and starting to question things. When you look back at where the internet was and the ability to communicate, I think that is definitely one of the first times people were like, yeah, but and for the first time.
I don't know. I mean, you can go all the way back to JFK with that.
Yeah, but it was much harder to communicate,
Yeah.
But I think with JFK, when you talk about the number of theories attached, was there a second gunman? Was it done by the CIA? Was it Lyndon Johnson behind it, or was it just was it one gunman? Who knows? I don't know. Nobody's ever knows. But there's the official story told by the United States government, and obviously that's another line of demarcation, right? Mm-hmm. But I think from an information perspective, I think 9/11 was definitely one of the where it expanded out, for sure. Where it expanded out outside of crazy whack jobs, and people are still crazy whack jobs for questioning any sort of narrative.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably one of the hardest things for me is I love America. I love America. I love everything about the idea of America. I love the ability to have free speech. I think that if you want to own a gun, you should be able to own a gun. I think that you should be, if you want to tell somebody they're a giant shit face to their face, you can say that. If you want to call somebody a Nazi, you call them a Nazi. That's fine, right? Like that's the beautiful thing about America, is you can say those things. Free speech is a wonderful thing. Mm-hmm. But man, I want to believe in our government. I very much want to believe in our government. And I think when you say when you love America and you believe in America, I believe in the ideals of America. I believe in what the America was founded on. And it's tough to go, well, what's our government doing to improve that situation, to make sure those rights are upheld? And it's hard to answer that today.
Yeah, I don't think we see enough out of our government, and that's why we're in the position that we're at. That's why people are questioning the government and wondering, like, well, what have you done to us? And it comes down to the people, though. We're so absorbed in this that we're not getting out in using our voice and demanding answers. We have a government right now that is saying that we're going to come to your doorstep to make sure that you're, well informed on what we want you to know. But we're, last time we tried to go to their doorstep, it didn't turn out so good as far as the media narrative and everything that's happened. But that shouldn't deter us from going to the doorstep again. And I'm not calling it an action. Don't mark me here, YouTube. I'm just saying that we need to continue demanding answers. We don't demand answers enough. We get mad. We get upbringing. Maybe we take it to the streets, but it needs to be consistent. If you look at what's happening in France right now, and you look at the pushback in the UK and in Australia, I mean, Australia is just a whole. It's Germany over there. It's 1930s Germany. But there are still people willing to fight for what they believe in. And America, of all places, should be the place where we should be out there every single day fighting for what we believe in, banding together. These groups that you see, you can see I've been performing at some of these rallies the last couple of weeks, and some of them are small and there's not that many people, and some of them there's a couple thousand people there, and that's great. There should be thousands and thousands of people, on the doorsteps of our Capitol buildings saying, we want answers to this and this and this, and don't let it fizzle out, because we tend to do that, right? We see something on
You
the
get
news
hot.
and we all get it. We get hot, we get all fizzled up, and then it fizzles out, and then we're on to the next tragedy or something like that.
Can I ask, this is from a different perspective. He says, that's why I brought up George Washington. Vaccines are not infringement on your rights. Sorry. They are an infringement on my body. And is it my body, my rights? My rights, my body? Right? Can you go into more depth on why you feel that a vaccine is not, like, I know the idea of, like, look, you have to get the polio vaccine. You have to get the whatever vaccine, the measles vaccine, the mumps to go to school, right? But there are also exemptions to that. There's a ton of exemptions to that. Tons of exemptions. Not every kid that goes to school has those,
Yeah.
And there should be exemptions to this.
No.
I
have a hard time believing, like, you don't. Oh, just so you know, my phone has let me know I have 10% battery left.
Okay, we'll wrap up in a second.
We'll have to wrap it up. But I have a hard time believing that everybody who's ever fought for freedom in war, that took that risk, that paid the ultimate sacrifice, did so the moment a virus with a 99.7% chance of survival rate, that we should divvy out our freedom a little bit at a time so we can survive that. Like, I think about that a lot, and everybody who's paid the ultimate sacrifice for freedom in this country, that how easily so many of us are like, well, I'll give up a little bit of freedom for this. Like, do you not realize what they faced going into war? Their their survival percentage of going into war to fight for that freedom, that now we're just sort of like, well, you got to give up a little bit of it now. Howard Stern, F your freedom. Arnold Schwarzenegger, screw your freedom. Why is that even being said right now? That's insanely, like, the dumbest thing I've heard in a long time. I'm ranting tonight.
Well, I think, when it comes to, and I know you got 10% left, so we'll be quick, but the idea that people say, people who are unvaxxed are extremely selfish. They go, you're extremely selfish, and don't you think about anybody else, right? One, isn't the vaccine supposed to work, right? First off, right? So if you're vaccinated, what's it matter? Number two, if you are of the high risk section of society, that you have several comorbidities, you're of a certain age, why should I stop living to bend for you? That's extremely selfish of you. You should take care of yourself, so I think that's incredibly selfish of you to feel that way. I'm all about people being able to have their own freedoms, make their own decisions, Yeah. So make those decisions.
Let's just say my choice is, I'm going to face COVID head on. If you think I'm going to die of COVID, that's my choice. Okay, I'm going to die of COVID. Just let me die of COVID in peace. Okay, I'm going to take that chance. That's my choice. Just back off. I don't know. I just think it's funny because there's a consistent thing here of, like, well, karma's going to get you, or this whole thing of you need to get it or else you're selfish, and then, oh, you're not going to get it, you're going to die. This underlying tone of, like, I hope you die for not getting this thing that I want everybody to get so we can save lives.
The Joe Rogan thing is amazing.
Baffling.
Yeah, seeing how people are like, I'm really upset, right, Joe Rogan didn't die because he had COVID.
Like, that's a great example. It's like Joe Rogan gets on camera and goes, I got COVID, but I feel better now. I took these. Oh, you didn't do. And then they're mad at him. And it's like, no. Anytime anybody says that they're sick and then they tell you they got better, you go, oh, good. What did you do? Like that's how you're supposed to respond. Instead, the internet got mad at him because he didn't get better the way they wanted him to. That's how crummy a situation we're in right now. It's unbelievable.
Neo Geo says, like, even wearing masks has become vilified in some places. So how can we meet halfway if people aren't allowed, right? It's, like, look, there are places. I'll say this: I haven't been to a place in Texas where you look differently if you wear a mask as opposed to not. I haven't seen that personally, right? But I'm sure there are people out there who do that. I know there are people out there that if you're not wearing a mask, you're a horrible person. It's there are extremes from all sides, guys. Extremes from all sides. But the point of this show is to have that conversation. So, all right, Brad's phone is running out, so we're going to wrap it up. Guys, continue the conversation in the comments over at youtube.com/5timesaugust. I'm glad we were able to talk about a little bit of 9/11 tonight, our personal experiences. I would love to hear your experiences down below in the comments. And make sure you guys give this episode a thumbs up if you're watching over on youtube.com/5timesaugust as well. I'll be continuing the NES Marathon this week over at twitch.tv/stutteringcraig. If you guys are into video games, come join me. That'll continue on Tuesday. But tomorrow, on Monday, I'm back at it with a little bit of Super Mario Kart. It's the Mario Kart Challenge, man. I'm taking on all comers on Mario Kart. So
nice.
You better get your ass in there, take it on Mario Kart tomorrow. So it's going to be super fun. But I appreciate everybody's perspectives, guys. I know that just me wearing this hat is seen as a controversial statement because I like Texas.
Oh my gosh, how could you do that?
I got to be honest, and I mean this with all sincerity. If you see this hat as a controversial statement, fuck off. All right. Have a great day, guys. We'll see you guys later. Brad, go charge your phone and continue the conversations. We love the conversation. That's what it's all about, having civil conversation and discourse. We love to hear your opposite and opposing perspectives. So please continue to carry on. Guys, have a great day. We'll catch you guys later on. Bye-bye.